So let's just pretend that 2 years ago, in a box that was maybe a little bit bigger than this, because there need to be bigger than this, that I put $10 million and I buried it somewhere out here, and that afterwards, instead of an Easter egg hunt, I said, for 30 minutes, you can go search for this box that has $10 million. You would be like, yes, I get to go search for $10 million. I get to go on a treasure hunt and try to find $10 million. Now, some of you would be scheming, and you'd be like, okay, what am I going to do in those 30 minutes? But let's also say I would give you one tool. I would give you one tool to help find this $10 million. What tool would help you most? Shout it out. A shovel, okay. What else? A map, flashlight, magnet, metal detector. I think that a map would be the best, especially if it was made by me and had the GPS coordinates of where I buried it. I think that would be the most helpful, because then you would know. Because again, maybe I could have covered it with something so that the metal couldn't be found. But again, you could find it in that 30 minutes. Now, just so that you're aware, there's not $10 million buried. Well, at least I didn't bury $10 million. Maybe somebody else did. But please don't go out and dig holes out there. Otherwise, when Kevin's mowing this summer, he'll be going through holes, and that wouldn't be fun. So please don't do that. But we are all on a treasure hunt. You and I are looking for treasure. Every single day, you and I are looking for a treasure that is worth more than $10 million. You and I are looking and spending our time looking for a treasure that is worth so much more than $10 million. And it's this thing called life. You and I are looking for this treasure called life. And it's worth way more than $10 million. Now, when I say life, we can be like, okay, what is this thing that you're talking about? What is this thing called life that you are talking about? And kind of some things that help us with this is purpose, satisfaction, joy, and flourishing. This is kind of what life is. It is this all-encompassing, and when we find it, we know it. And we are searching for it. And we are spending so much time looking for this thing called life. We're spending time, energy, money looking for life. And here's the thing, guys. Looking for life, that is a good thing. We should be searching for life. We were wired, made to look for life. You should be searching for life. That is something that you and I should be searching for. I hope that you are looking for life. I hope that you are spending your time looking for life, because it is that important. And it's worth more than anything you own. And it's worth more than anything that you ever could own, because it's worth more than $10 million. Right? Jesus even said, I have come to give you life to the full. It's worth everything. Life is that valuable. But here's the thing about life. It's so hard to find in this world. That's why many have searched. Many have searched for this thing called life. They've searched high and low. They have been on a treasure hunt their whole life, and they haven't found it. There are so many different maps out there, so many different maps that people have. There are so many different guides out there. People saying, follow this map. You have to do these things, and then you'll be able to find life. And so people have searched for life, and they can't find it. But here's the beautiful thing about Easter. Easter is more than flowers and dressing up and photo booths and eggs and all of that. Easter is about a map to find life. Easter is saying, this is where life is. This is where this thing that you're looking for, this is where life is found. And friends, that is why we get to celebrate Easter. That is why we take the flowers and dress up and do that, because this is where life is found. So let's dig into Luke 24, 1 through 8. We're going to be in there today. If you don't have a Bible, I encourage you to open one of our pew Bibles, and there will be page 855. Page 855, if you have a Bible, open that up. Otherwise, phone, or otherwise, it will be on the screen. Again, we'll be in Luke 24, verses 1 through 8. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, But when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" Have you ever had a question that somebody asked and it just stopped you? Like you were doing fine in life, you were just walking fine in life, and all of a sudden they asked you this question and boom, you just stopped. And you're like, oh, that's a life-changing question. That's a question that changes everything. That's a question that makes you question everything. This is one of those questions that these women were asked. Why do you look for the living among the dead? It's a powerful question. It's one of the most powerful questions that Scripture has. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Now, this is not a scolding question. We can read this as a scolding question, but this is more of a guiding question. This is a question that is that's more of a map for them to help them find the thing that they're looking for. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Now, how did these women get here? How did they get to this place where they're being asked this guiding question? First of all, it's because they were grieving. Right? It wasn't because they were faithless. It wasn't because they were foolish. Right? They were faithful women. They had followed Jesus for years. They had been with Jesus. They had heard his teachings. They'd seen Jesus heal. They had seen Jesus feed 5,000 people. They had seen Jesus cast out demons. They had seen Jesus do awesome things, and they had seen Jesus and like, he has life. We want to follow Jesus because Jesus has life. And so they followed Jesus. They were faithful to Jesus. And they stuck with Jesus when everyone else scattered. They were faithful to Jesus. And so they were going to Jesus' tomb. They were going there because the job of burying him wasn't dead. See, when Jesus had died, it was just before the Jewish Sabbath started, and so they couldn't do work on the Jewish Sabbath, and so they weren't able to finish the burial rites. And so they were going to go to add spices. Why? Because they loved Jesus so much. They wanted to continue to be faithful to Jesus. They wanted to put the spices to honor his body, to make it so that as his body broke down, it would not stink. They wanted to honor him in that. They wanted to finish that. But as they got close to that tomb, something was off. Something was wrong. The stone that was there was gone. And now here we have a stone that's smaller, but the stone that was in front of Jesus' tomb would have been 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. This was not a small stone, and the stone was set in a groove. And so it's not like a small breeze would have come by and the stone would have rolled away. It's not like one person could have just moved it. Somebody had to move it on purpose and for a reason. And so the women came up and the stone was moved, and they looked in and his body was gone. It was gone. They had seen Jesus' body put in there. They had seen the stone rolled, and then his body was gone. And I just want you to imagine those women. They had faithfully followed Jesus. They loved him dearly. They had seen his body put in there. They were putting spices to honor him, and his body was gone. And they had to be like, so did the Romans steal him? Did the Jewish leaders, are somebody doing something to his body? What is happening to Jesus, the one we've loved, the one we've followed for years? What's happening to his body? And it's that moment that the angels ask, why do you look for the living among the dead? And the reason why they showed up is because their map, if you would say, said that's where he is. The last known place for him was there. And we are the same. We're being asked this question today. Why do you look for the living among the dead? There's 2 ways that you and I look for life among the dead. First is that we look for life among dead things. We look for life from things that can't give us life. Now, this doesn't mean that these things are bad things. I want you to hear that. I'm not saying that these things are bad things at all. Scripture is not saying these things are bad things at all. But these things can't use life. So here's an example. These bricks up here are good things. These bricks are very useful things for a wall. But like, I can't get life from these. If I was hungry and starving, taking a brick and eating it would not give life, right? Please say right. Because if any of you think I can, I have news for you. We can talk later about that. Oh, painful. Anyways. So again, I don't want you to think that they're bad things, but they're not things that can give life. And so if we're searching for life, they can't give life. So first place we look for life. The first holes that we start to dig, the map that tells us is to look for life in the things that we do. We think, okay, if I get that next job, if I make it to manager or vice president or that next role, then I will find joy and satisfaction and purpose. Then everything will be good. As soon as I move my grades from a C to a B or a B to A, then I will find everything. As soon as I make this team or score this many points, or as soon as I get this girl or that guy to date me, or as soon as I kill this sales project or this project or do that, as soon as I achieve this, then I will find flourishing. Then I will find life. But every time we get that, yes, it's good and it's useful, but it doesn't give life, does it? It doesn't truly give joy and satisfaction that lasts. So we have that. And then we look to money. Some people say money, find life in money. And it's not because we're greedy often. We think, okay, if I just get enough money to be stable, or if I just get enough where I'm stable and have some saved, or if I just get enough money where I'm stable, get some saved, and then have extra to give away, then at 3 in the morning, I wouldn't wake up panicked, I wouldn't wake up anxiety, and then I could just, find flourishing in life. And yet we find once we make it to there, well, then actually, if I make it to here and here, and it never satisfies, and so we're digging and it's not there. Again, it's useful, it's helpful, but it's not where we find life. Another one is with people. We think, okay, if I marry this person, or this person that I've married, or if I date this person is going to bring me life. And it's not that the person can't bring you joy and happiness, but we put too much weight on them, and that person can't bear that. The person wasn't made to bear that. Only God can do that. Or with kids, we put way too much pressure on them. We're actually trying to live our lives through them, and we're trying to get our joy and our satisfaction from them, and they can't bear that. All of those. So that's one way that we do that. Again, these things aren't bad. They're useful, but we can't get life from them. It is like trying to eat bricks and staying alive. It doesn't work. So we have that. But the second is that we look for Jesus in dead places. We look for Jesus in empty graves. We are on a treasure hunt, and we look in empty graves and because we've heard Jesus is life. And so we look in these tombs expecting to find Jesus, and we can't find him there, and we can't find the life that we're looking for. And then we're like, this Jesus thing, this doesn't work. No, it's just that we've looked in dead places. We've looked in tombs. Here's a couple tombs that we look in. First is the thing that I call checkbox Christianity. This is where we just have a checklist. Okay, I have a checklist of things that I'm supposed to do, then I'm going to find life. Okay, I have to show up at church a certain number of times, and we all have a certain number of lists. Maybe it's a certain number of times a year, a certain number of times a month, and we have this list and check it off. Okay, I have to read my Bible or my phone app that will pop up the verse. I have to pray at a certain number of meals. I have to give a certain amount. I have to serve a certain number of times a year. But all it is checking boxes. We're just checking boxes. And then we're going over here. We're shouting, Jesus! Jesus! And of course, Jesus isn't there because all we're doing is just trying to check a box. And think about that in a marriage or a friendship. If all we did was show up and sit there with somebody and not interact at all and just be like, okay, I've hung out with you 4 times this month. It's good. Right? That wouldn't work. But we do that trying to find life with Jesus. Or a second tomb that we look at is a good person Christianity. As long as I'm a good person, as long as I do good things, most of the time, as long as I don't hurt people, as long as I don't break laws other than speeding, because everybody breaks that law. And if you don't, I'm passing you. Giving you a stare now these days. As long as I'm a good parent most of the time, a good spouse, or maybe just not the worst spouse, right? But like we're calling out to Jesus now, Jesus! Jesus! And he's not there because it's not about being a good person, but we're looking for that. So we're looking for Jesus in all these places where Jesus isn't. And we're spending our life looking for Jesus. We're digging these holes everywhere. We're trying to find life in all these places where Jesus isn't, where life isn't. And we're like, man, like I want life, but I can't find it. But the good news of Easter is that life can be found. So these women found life. So again, the question is, why do you look for the living among the dead? That question is being asked to them and being asked to us. And so let's hear the answer. Verse 6. He is not here. He is risen. The angels say, oh, the life you're looking for is in Jesus, the one who is risen, the one who has conquered death. He is the treasure. Jesus is the treasure. So even friends, to you, the thing you're looking for, the life you're looking for is Jesus, the risen Jesus, the one who is living and active, and he is not in dead things. He is alive and active, and he is moving in this world. And the way that we get life from him is with a relationship with him. When we have a relationship with Jesus, that is when we find life. So we're going to get to that to a second, but we need to know, why is Jesus the treasure? Why is Jesus the source of life? You need to know that. I need to know this. Why is Jesus the source of life? The angel goes on to tell them why Jesus is the source of life. He told them, while he was still with you in Galilee, or he told you while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hand of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again. So why is Jesus the ultimate treasure? Why is Jesus the source of life? It's because of who he is and what he has done. It's because of who he is and what he's done. So there's 3 words in here, 3 phrases that will be helpful. He was handed over. This idea that he is our substitute. Friends, the reality of this world is that you and I, and humans in general, we have chosen to live separate of God on our own. We have decided, the first humans did, and every human since has decided, we want to be our own gods, we want to make our own gods, we want to live separate from God. And because of that, you and I deserve and are condemned to death. We deserve that. That is the reality of every human being, separate except from God. That is the reality. Apart from God, we deserve death. It's hard to handle, but that's the truth. And Jesus, who is God, loved us too much to keep it that way. From the moment humans sinned, God said, I will fix this. He promised right away in Genesis, I will fix this. And the plan was that Jesus would come as a human, live a perfect life as our substitute in our place. He lived that perfect life for us in our place. And then he was handed over, delivered. And as he was delivered, as he lived the life that we couldn't live, he died the death to be crucified that we couldn't, or he died for our sins in our place. He died the death that you and I deserve. On the cross, this cross we have here is just this picture of he died, he bore our punishment. He suffered the torture of the cross. And I won't go into it today. We went into it more on Good Friday. But the torture of the cross was great. But not only did Jesus bear the torture of the cross, he bore the punishment for every sin that has ever been committed. He took that punishment upon himself. He died in our place. He lived the life we couldn't. He died the death that you and I deserve. And he was in that grave. He was in that tomb. He was dead. He was dead. The Romans knew how to kill people. They made sure he was dead. I know there's a lot of things out there. Jesus wasn't really dead. No, he was dead. He was in that grave. All the forces of hell were trying to hold him down. But on that third day, he began to breathe. The ground shook, and he walked out of that grave. He stood up, walked out of that grave, trampling over death. He is the most alive being person that has ever existed. He is full of life. He is the source of life who can give life to anyone, and he offers that life to everyone. In him is the fullness of life. In Jesus, you can find your purpose, satisfaction, joy, flourishing. In him, you can find everything that you're looking for. In him is every single last thing that you are looking for. In Jesus alone, he's the greatest treasure. He is the most alive person in the whole entire universe. So how do we find him? Because it'd be cruel of me to be like, he's the greatest treasure. See ya. How do we find him? Verse 8, then they remembered his words. When we remember Jesus, we find him. And you're like, wait, that seems strange. But when we remember who he really is, what he's really done, boom, we're brought to Jesus. We're brought right next to him. When we're close to him, then we can be in relationship with him. When we're near to somebody, then we can be in relationship with them. Charles Spurgeon put it this way. He's a pastor of old. He says, remembrance of Christ will bring you to him. It is like there's a chariot, which would be awesome. Some of you didn't ask for this little tool. You guys should have asked for a chariot that would bring you right to where that treasure is, that $10 million. But remembrance of Christ is like a chariot. It brings us right to Christ, who's our treasure. Right? As soon as these women remember who Christ is, boom, they're like, yes, and they are emboldened and they're changed. And we'll get to that part of the story. Right? They are transformed. Their life is transformed. These women who, again, had dedicated their life to Jesus, who had spent their life following him, and who were just devastated that Jesus had died, who are going to mourn him, who are going to honor him, all of a sudden were changed. They were the first people to preach the gospel. They were the first people to preach that Jesus had risen in a culture that had pushed women down. They were the first ones to trust and do that. They were the ones who were scorned, but they were the ones who led the Jesus movement. They are the reason why you and I are here. They're the reasons why billions of Christians exist, because their life was changed because they were brought right to him right there. They found purpose, joy, satisfaction, hope because of that. So some of you are here and you need to remember for the first time. And you're like, wait, what? Every one of us knows deep within that this is true. Because I know for some of you, you haven't trusted this in your life, or it's been a long time, and all of a sudden you're like, this is resonating with me today. And it's not just because it's true. It is true. But it's because deep within you, you've always known this. But now you're hearing it and you're like, oh, I'm remembering this. And later on, during our prayer, I'm going to give you space to say, Jesus, I want to follow you. I want to be in a relationship with you. I want to accept your gift of salvation because I want to receive the life that you offer. You are the one who gives life, and so I want to give you space for that. I don't believe it's an accident that any of you are here or watching online, whether it was mom or grandma or aunt or uncle That's not them who end up getting you here. It was the Holy Spirit. It was Jesus. For you to hear this today, that there is life to the full, the thing you're looking for is found in Jesus. But also for the rest of us, we need to remember. We live in a world that is shouting at us constantly, find life over here. Life is over here. Life is only 99 cents over here. Life is only $399 over here. We're constantly told life is in all of these places. And we need to remember over and over where life is, that it's found in Jesus. We need others too. This is what I've learned more and more the longer I've walked with Jesus, that I need you and you need me. Because I forget. I forget often. That is why we gather every Sunday. That is why we have Easter every single year. Because we forget. We're a forgetful people. That's why we sing songs about Jesus rising from the dead. That is why here we're going through the Gospel of Luke. We've gone through the Gospel of Luke 10 weeks, and we're going to go through for most of the rest of this year. It's not because we want to become Luke scholars. I don't want people to become Luke scholars, but I want to invite you who are here, like if you're nearby, come here, walk through Luke, because Jesus, we encounter Jesus, the one who's the source of life, and we're walking through so we can continue to meet Jesus, that we're brought to Jesus, that we're continually brought to him, and that we're reminded of Jesus, that we have this remembrance of who he truly is. And if you're not from around here, I want to encourage you to find a group of people who will help you remember, but just find somewhere to remember. Because when we remember, we are brought to Christ, the one who is life. So now, as you hear this, there's three responses. There are three responses the day of, and there's going to be three responses here. Let's continue on in verse 9. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and all to the others. Let's jump to verse 11. But the 11 did not believe the women, because their words seemed to them like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went wondering to himself what had happened. So the first group are these women. They trust, and they go and tell others, like, yes, Jesus has changed my life. Yes, I've been changed and transformed, and I'm going to go tell everybody. Like, this is for those who it clicks, and you find the treasure, and you're like, I found this treasure, and it's given me everything that I am need, and like it's going to give for everyone. This is a never-ending source of treasure, and I want everyone to see. I want everyone to have this treasure, and that's the first group. The second group, I was like, this is nonsense. I don't trust this. Now notice, it was guys that didn't trust this, so husbands, maybe there's a couple lessons in there, but this is not a marriage sermon, so we won't go too far into that. But they're skeptical. And again, I get that. I don't want to pretend I don't want to do it. Like, these are huge claims that are being said. I get these claims are being huge. Like, sometimes we as pastors can pretend these aren't huge claims. These are huge claims. So those of you who are in here and you're skeptical, yep, you should be skeptical. These are huge claims. We're saying that God took on human flesh, fully human, fully God, lived in our place, died in our place, was in a tomb, was dead, rose, and is living. Yeah, like, those are huge claims. Now, those are true claims. We can historically show those, but they're huge claims. Totally get that if you're skeptical. But then the third group is like Peter, exploring. Some of you are like, I don't know, but And so those are all three responses. And here's the thing, all are valid. All are valid responses to this big news that we learn on Easter. And here's the thing, is that all who heard, God would slowly and patiently work with them. All of those who heard would end up following Jesus. They would end up giving their lives. Their lives would be changed and transformed because God is patient. God is kind. God is slow. God wishes that none would perish. So here's my ask of you. If you're here and you're going, I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm asking, don't throw this in the trash. Just put it in a file. Just file it and come back and look at it later. Because I understand it's a big claim. And maybe it's later this week. Maybe it's in 2 weeks. But this is life. This is where flourishing is. So just don't throw it away. So how do we take this into our week? How do we put this into practice? How do we make this useful? It's for all of us. For the next 7 days, or if some of you need space to not start this in the next 7 days, start it later. Read Luke 24, 1 through 8, every day for the next 7 days, or start it later. For 7 days, read this passage. And then ask God, what is my next step? What is my next step out of this? Every day, just ask that question. And then, this is the hard part, listen in silence, whatever silence is for you, for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. And then write down any thoughts that you have. Again, the things you think you hear, just the thoughts you have, write it down. Do it on day 1, and if it's nothing, put nothing. That's fine. And then day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. Try it. Because what's the worst that happens? I'm terrible at doing math up here. I think that's 35 minutes. You add in some reading time, that's like 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. What's 45 minutes of your life? So for those of you who are believers, I think God's going to reveal some really cool stuff to you. I think some of you, God's going to be like, hey, this is the step I want you to take with this family member, or with your job, or with your business. I want you to start this business, close this business, do this, or hire this person. Like, I think he's going to do some awesome things. And for those of you who are skeptics, I think God's going to show you like, no, I really did rise from the dead, and you're going to see that, and you're going to explore, you're going to get hungry. And for those of you who are searching and went, I think he's going to just prove himself over and over and over to you. So do it. See what happens. I want to encourage us. Take, again, this 45 minutes over this next week total. Let's do it. Let's see what God has. Because, again, it's worth it. If we're searching for treasure, we've looked everywhere else. Let's see what Jesus has. So, guys, the great news of Easter, the great news that we celebrate, the reason why we gather, the reason why we get dressed up, the reason why we have flowers up here, the reason why we have the photo booth and awesome treats and snacks and books and all this, the reason why we do this, the reason why people have gathered, the reason why people have risked their life is because Jesus is the greatest treasure. He is life. He is the source of life. He is everything that you're looking for. He is the thing that you've been looking for. He is the thing that you have just wanted beyond anything else. And Jesus lived the life that you weren't able to live. He lived in your place. He died in your place, and he rose from the dead. He rose from the dead. He trampled over death, the most powerful thing that we face. He trampled over it. He walked out of that grave. And he lives, and he offers that life to you. He's saying, here is life. I offer it freely to you. It's offered to you. So the question of Easter is, will you look for the living among the dead? Or will you find Jesus by remembering him? He is risen. He is risen. Let's pray.